There is a $6 box fan sitting on my front porch right now, pointed down at my own ankles. It looks ridiculous. I know it looks ridiculous. My neighbor across the road pays a company $80 a month to drive a truck up his driveway and fog his whole yard. And he still cannot sit out on his deck and eat a hamburger in July without slapping his own neck every 30 seconds. I have a yard sale box fan with a bent grill and a frayed cord, and I have not been bitten on my own porch in 6 years, not once at my own table. It costs $6. It runs all summer for less than the price of one of his fog treatments, and it works better than anything I ever sold a customer in 30 years of doing this for a living. Stay with me, because by the end of this, I am going to tell you exactly where to put that fan, which way to point it, the 2 reasons it works that almost nobody understands, and the one thing I am going to set out in the corner of my own yard tonight that pulls the mosquitoes away from the people I love and toward a death they walk into on their own. And then I am going to tell you the part that ought to make you a little angry, which is that I spent 3 decades in mosquito control and we never once told a customer to go buy a $6 fan. There was no reason to. There is no monthly bill in a box fan. Let me start with what this is not about, because if you think small, you will spend big. This is not about an itchy bump on your arm. It is not about one bad evening. It is about the fact that your kids will not play in the backyard at dusk anymore. It is about the cookout you canceled and ate inside instead. It is about West Nile virus, which is now in damn near every county in this country, and it is about the dog laying out in the grass while 100 of them feed on her belly where you cannot see. This is not about a gadget. It is about understanding one single thing the spray companies need you to never figure out. Because the day you figure it out, you stop paying them. So they keep it complicated. I am going to make it simple. My name does not matter much, but I will tell you what I am. For 30 years I worked in mosquito abatement. I have stood in more standing water than any man should in one lifetime. I have walked behind the fog truck. I have sprayed the backyards of people who waved at me from their kitchen window like I was the cavalry coming over the hill. And for a long time I believed I was. Then somewhere in about year 19 I started doing the math on what I was actually selling and what I was actually killing, and I could not square it anymore. I am not going to pretend I had some big dramatic morning where I quit. I just got quiet about it. I started telling my own family different things than I told my root. And 6 years ago, I put a yard sale fan on my porch as a joke, almost, to prove a point to my brother-in-law, and I have not bought a can of anything since. Now here is why the company never put a fan on the truck. A fan is $6 one time. A spray contract is $80 a month, every month, May through September, and it never refills itself because there is nothing to refill. There is just another visit and another bill. You do the arithmetic on which one a company would rather you believe in. And it is not just the fog trucks, it is the whole circus. The bug zapper hanging on your porch right now, that blue light that snaps and sizzles all night and makes you feel like something is getting done, I will tell you flat, the studies on those things are brutal. The overwhelming majority of what a zapper kills is beetles and moths and harmless little flies, the good bugs, and almost none of it is mosquitoes. Mosquitoes are not even drawn to that light. You bought a beneficial insect executioner and hung it up like a trophy. Then there are the misting systems, the ones they plumb right into your shrub beds for $2,000 and a service plan, spraying poison into your own flowers on a timer. And the propane traps, the ones that run $200–300 and burn a propane tank a month pretending to breathe like a person. Most folks I knew ran one for a season, watched it catch a thimble of bugs, and quietly put it out by the curb. Every one of those things has the same business model underneath it. The problem has to stay just complicated enough and just expensive enough that you never think to question it. I sat in the sales meetings. Nobody ever stood up and said, "How do we actually get rid of these bugs for this family?" They said, "How do we keep this account on the books through September?" That is the whole industry in one sentence, and I am ashamed of how long it took me to hear it. So let me uncomplicate it for you. Everybody believes mosquitoes are these fierce little hunters. They are not. I want you to hear this because it changes everything that comes after. The mosquito is one of the worst flyers in the entire insect world. Pathetic, honestly. A housefly can fly circles around one. A bee laughs at one. A mosquito tops out at somewhere around 1 to 1.5 miles an hour, and that is flat out, no wind, perfect conditions. A gentle breeze, the kind that barely moves the hair on your arm, is a hurricane to her. She cannot make headway against it. She gets blown sideways off her line, and she cannot get back. And she does not find you the way you think she does, either. She is not looking at you. Her eyesight is garbage. What she is doing is following the cloud of carbon dioxide you breathe out, mixed with the heat and the smell coming off your skin, and she follows that invisible ribbon of warm breath upwind toward the source like a hound on a string. You, sitting on your porch, are a lighthouse. You are pumping out a beam of CO2 and heat with every breath, and every female mosquito in range is locking onto that beam and rowing her sorry little body up it toward your ankle. A fan does two things to that at the same time, and this is the whole trick. First, it puts up a wall of moving air faster than she can fly, so she physically cannot reach the zone the air is moving through. She just cannot get there. And second, and this is the part the abatement world knows and your lawn guy never mentions, that moving air shreds your CO2 plume into nothing. It scatters the beam. It turns the lighthouse off. She cannot follow a trail that has been blown into 1,000 pieces. On top of that, the breeze cools your skin a few degrees, so you stop glowing so bright on her heat sensor. You become a dimmer, scattered, unreachable target. You disappear. This is not folk wisdom. The American Mosquito Control Association, the actual professional body, the people who do this for cities and counties, has been telling the public for years that a simple oscillating fan is one of the most effective things a homeowner can do on a patio. They just say it quietly in a paragraph nobody reads while the trucks keep rolling. So let me say the limit too. So you trust me. A fan only protects the air it actually moves. It is not a force field over your whole property. It is a porch and patio tool. I will come back to what to do about the rest of the yard, but for the place where you actually sit, the place where you actually get bitten, $6 and a breeze is the answer. Here is exactly what to do, and there is a right way and a wrong way. Get yourself a box fan. Do not buy the $40 designer one with the wood trim. Buy the ugly $6 one at the yard sale or the thrift store with the bent grill. They all move the same air. Now, the wrong way, the way almost everybody does it, is to set the fan up on the table and point it at their own face. Do not do that. You will be comfortable, and you will still get bitten on the legs because the mosquito comes in low. She works the ankles and the calves. That is her country. She comes in below the table where the air is still. So you set the fan down low, on the floor of the porch or up on a low stool no higher than your knee, and you point it across the seating area at ankle and shin height. You are building a wall of wind right where she wants to fly. Medium speed is plenty. You do not need a gale, you need steady. If you have got an outdoor outlet, run a cheap weatherproof extension cord from inside and a $15 timer, the kind they sell for Christmas lights, so it kicks on at 5 in the evening when she starts hunting and shuts itself off at midnight when you have gone to bed. Set it and forget it the whole summer. And here is the seating part. Everybody sits in the airflow downwind of the fan, so the breeze is washing over all of you and carrying everybody's breath trail off into the yard where it does no harm. One ugly fan, pointed low across the chairs. That is the entire technique for the porch. You can do that tonight for $6 and you will feel the difference the same evening. Now, for a big open porch or a wide deck, one fan might not cover the whole seating area, so you put up two and you go fixed, not oscillating. I know the oscillating one feels fancier, but you do not want the wall of air swinging away from you every few seconds and leaving a gap she can slip through. You want a constant, boring, unbroken wall. Set them at the two ends pointed across the middle and you have sealed the deck. but a fan keeps her off of you. It does not deal with the fact that she is out there in the first place, breeding in your own yard and looking for somebody to bite. So we are going to do two more cheap things, and the first one is my favorite because it turns her own instincts against her. You are going to build her a trap she walks into on her own, and you are going to set it away from where you sit so it pulls her toward the far corner of the yard and away from your people. Take an empty 2-liter soda bottle, cut the top third off, the part that funnels down to the cap. Mix up some warm water with sugar in the bottom half, stir in a little packet of cheap baking yeast, and then turn that cut-off top upside down and nest it into the bottom like a funnel pointing in. The yeast eats the sugar and breathes out carbon dioxide for days. To a mosquito, that bottle is a person breathing in the corner of the yard. She follows the CO2 trail down into the funnel, and she cannot find her way back out. Pennies. You can make 4 of them out of bottles from your recycling bin and set one in each far corner of the lot, every one of them quietly luring the females away from your porch and toward a dead end. That is your decoy. The fan turns off your lighthouse. The bottles turn on a fake one 100 feet away. And then there is the part that is free and matters more than anything you can buy, and it is the part everybody skips because it is not glamorous. You have to dump the water. Every mosquito biting you was born in your own yard, in standing water, and it does not take much. A bottle cap's worth in the fold of a tarp is enough. A clogged gutter holding half a cup for 4 days is a hatchery. The saucer under the potted fern is a nursery. So once a week, in the cool of the morning, you take a coffee can and you walk the whole property and you tip out every single thing holding water. The saucers, the wheelbarrow, the kiddie pool, the dog dish you stopped using, the trash can lids, and clean your gutters, because a clogged gutter is probably the biggest breeding ground on your entire property and you cannot even see it from the ground. 5 minutes a week walking that line will do you more good than $50 of anything in a bottle. Dump the water and you have shut the maternity ward. So skip the zapper, skip the citronella candle that protects about 2 feet of air and blows out in the breeze. Skip the wristbands, $6 fan on the porch, a couple of yeast bottles in the far corners, and a weekly walk with a coffee can. That is the whole system, and it costs almost nothing, and it never once kills a bee. Now I owe you the honest truth about the limits, because I am not going to do to you what they did to me. Let me tell you about the customer who finally turned me. There was an old woman on my route, lived alone out past the county line, paid for the full season every year out of a fixed income she did not have much of. And one August evening, I am there with the sprayer and she is sitting on her little screened porch with her grandbabies. And she says to me, "Plain as anything, son, it does not seem to work, but I am scared to stop." That sentence sat in my chest for a week. Scared to stop. That is the whole thing they sell you, not a result, just the fear of going without. So the next spring, off the clock, I drove back out there and I set her up a fan on that porch and dumped the bird bath she did not know was breeding them by the thousand, and I told her to cancel the contract. She called me that fall just to say she had sat out there every evening of the summer. I think about that more than I think about anything I ever sprayed. A fan will not clear a half-acre yard. It will not protect your kids playing soccer in the open grass 40 feet away. Anybody who tells you a $6 fan throws a bubble over your whole property is lying to you, and you ought to distrust everything else they say after that. The fan is for the porch, the patio, the place you sit. The bottles and the water dumping are what shrink the population in the yard at large. You use them together. One handles where you are, the other handles where they come from. Used together on a normal lot, they will give you back your evenings. I would not tell you that if I had not lived it. And let me pull back for a second, because this is bigger than your one porch, and I think you should know what you are really part of. The mosquito kills more human beings every year than any other animal on the face of the earth. Not snakes, not sharks, not bears. The mosquito. She carries West Nile, which is in nearly every state now. She carries the rarer ones that put people in the hospital and do not let some of them leave. And in other parts of the world, she carries malaria, which still kills more than 500,000 people a year, most of them little kids under 5. This is not a joke about an itchy ankle. This is the deadliest animal there is, and the way most of the country has been taught to deal with her is to call a company and sign a contract and let a truck fog the yard once a month with something that kills every insect it touches. And here is the cost of that nobody puts on the invoice. The same fog that kills her kills the honeybees that pollinate your garden. It kills the butterflies. It kills the dragonflies, which, by the way, eat mosquitoes for a living and were on your side the whole time. We are poisoning our own yards, killing our own helpers to fight an enemy that a $6 fan and a bottle of yeast water would have handled without harming a single good thing. A fan does not kill a bee. A yeast bottle does not kill a butterfly. Dumping a saucer of water does not kill anything except the next batch of her young. The whole system I just gave you costs less than 1 month of what my neighbor pays, takes 1 weekend to set up, and you can run it for the rest of your life with no contract, no chemical, and nothing dead that you did not mean to kill. So this weekend, here is what I want you to do. Get the $6 fan. Set it low, on the floor or a stool, point it across your chairs at ankle height, and sit downwind of it. That is step 1, and you will feel it the first evening. Cut up a couple of 2-liter bottles, mix the sugar and the yeast, and set them in the far corners of the yard away from the porch. That is step 2, and it costs you nothing. Then take a coffee can and walk your property and dump every bit of standing water you find and clean those gutters. That is step 3, and it is free, and it is the most important one of all. $60 maybe, the very first time if you have to buy the fan new, and almost nothing every summer after, compared to one fog treatment. Tell me in the comments where you live and how bad the mosquitoes are getting this year, because I read every one of these. And then come back and tell me whether you put the fan out and whether it worked, because I already know what you are going to say, and I want to hear you say it. Next time, I am going to show you the one thing I plant right by my porch steps that mosquitoes will not cross. It costs nothing, it grows like a weed, and you can pull a sprig of it and crush it in your hand and rub it on your skin and walk through a cloud of them. The spray companies will never mention it, for the same reason they never mention the fan. Until then, point it low, sit downwind, and remember, the simplest answer was sitting in a yard sale pile the whole time. They just needed you not to notice.